What is up? Happy MLK Day. I'm still going to call it MLK Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. You know, they give these days to important people in history who've done something that people, need to recognize. And I think he did quite a bit. So happy Monday. Hope everybody's weekend was well. Hopefully, you did something to, look up and understand why they're giving this man a holiday and giving you a day off. Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's a 3-day holiday, but they don't know what it is. What holiday is it? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I guarantee you, when it's July 4th, you know what the hell is going on. But before I get into all the civil rights portion of what I'm going to talk about today, I really started looking back into things because last week I had a conversation with a friend who I showed her the video of Drewski, the comedian, doing a sketch about churches, mega churches specifically. And I showed her the video and I thought it was funny because I have been to a mega church. Like, yeah, this is a big church and they had a library. They had a little convenience store selling their books, their merchandise, and all that kind of wild stuff. And I had only gone to this church maybe once or twice in my life. And the church that I used to go to when I was younger was a very small church. And what I remember was the biggest thing that happened. Now, I was young and I didn't completely understand what was going on, but now that I go back through my memories, the pastor had cheated on his wife, and everybody in the church found out. And then soon after, we stopped going to that church. I do remember that. And, we kind of bounced around to a few different churches. And then, as I got older, I moved off to college and kind of slowly stopped going to church and then picked it back up and then slowly stopped again. But that's not what we're talking about right now. That church was a very small, calm church. And I do remember the pastor, he had a really nice car. He came in super nice suits. And as I got older, I was like, man, that's not what church is about. You should be able to come in with what you have on and praise the Lord. And I do remember also some people would come, you couldn't wear jeans. You had to dress up in your Sunday best. But again, that's not what it's about. You go to church to praise the Lord however you can. You're thanking the Lord that you're even there. We don't get every day. That's not how this works. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't know if you're going to be here. You just do not know. And then also, as I got older, I got to see some of these mega churches on TV. The pastors flying in from the ceilings. Smoke, fireworks. They're wearing 6-piece suits. And I'm like, that's not right. My spider sense is tingling. And I'm like, that is just not right. And then as I get much older, I see these pastors online with mega churches, and now they have jets, right? They're flying around private jets. Don't touch me, peasant. And there's a few of them out there that I'm like, you're not doing this for the right reasons. And those are the ones that Drewski was making fun of. And people are like, he's making fun of the Lord. No. These people are not worshiping and praising the Lord properly. They're flying in on jets that take crazy amounts of fuel, right? Then they sit in and then they're in the church, and it is just a massive church, and they want you to spend on your tithes and offering hundreds of thousands of dollars that you may not have. Like, I know you've been online and seen some of the clips where, like, the pastor was like, we need to make $40,000 or something crazy like that. And then he told his ushers to lock the door until we get the money. What? And then there was another one where the pastor, he specifically said, I want you to give me $1,000 plus $1,000. And this woman came up and she didn't have $2,000. She had about $1,265. And she brought that up to that pastor. And that pastor looked at her and got on his microphone and said, I don't think y'all understand what I'm saying. She's like, this is what I have. He's like, well, that's not enough. And I'm like, that is not what church is about. Not by a long shot. And that's not what church is about. And that's what Drewski was making fun of. And I sat down and I talked with my friend about this. And she asked a big question. She's like, why are there black and white churches? She said, why can't we all just join hands and worship God together? And I said, look, you got to think. Desegregation didn't start. It didn't, it wasn't in people's faces until 1954. That's 71 years ago. You know people that are 70 years old. You know people that are, 65 years old. They were around through all that craziness. And that's why I'm happy we had this conversation that is going to, segue into me talking about the civil rights movement for a couple minutes and how I feel things have changed slightly because they are starting to go back where they were with all the hatred.
It's time to get casually uncomfortable with your host, Chuck Jerome.
Viewer discretion is advised. All right, before I, really get into things, welcome to the show. This is Casually Uncomfortable. I'm Chuck Jerome. And yeah, happy Martin Luther King Day. So as I was saying, desegregation in schools didn't start till 1954. And that's 72 years ago. You know people close to that age. Right? That's crazy. Now, things didn't really start to pick up until 1955. So that's 71 years. One thing I always wanted to do when I did this podcast was talk about the civil rights movement with my grandparents. But unfortunately, they're both passed away. I can't do that. Now, my grandmother, she was born in 1944. 10 years before all of this craziness. So she grew up for 10 years with hatred, with pure hatred. And then 10 years later, they start desegregating schools. And that hatred rises again. So now it's pure hatred part 2. Guess who was born in 1946? Uncle Donnie. El Presidente. So he grew up on the other side of this during the wild times of all of this. So let's see where we're at. Schools didn't desegregate until 1954. Then the Civil Rights Act didn't really start until 1964, 10 years later. And then stuff didn't really start happening until the 60s. Think about that. 60s. But it started slowly getting better in the 80s. Not even the 70s. 70s were still rough. It wasn't really until the 80s. Even though they desegregated schools in 1954, Ruby Bridges didn't go to a desegregated school until 1960. Think of that. 6 years later, after they said, hey, we need to desegregate these schools, the hate was so high and so intense that they said, we are not. Think of that. And here's a little side note. Emmett Till was killed in 1955. He was 14 years old. And I've already heard stories of people talking where he was portrayed as a young adult. You're a kid at 14. You're a little punk ass kid. But they said he whistled at this white woman. He got lynched and beat so bad that they couldn't even recognize him. And then come to find out in my lifetime that the woman that said he whistled at her, guess what? She fucking lied. And that was in 2008. And no lie, I remember that because that was the year after I graduated college. Think of that. And that hatred has just continued to fester with people. That's crazy. And it was so heavy on this woman's heart that she had to confess. So here's the little timeline. 1955 to 2026, that's 71 years. Right? That's when things really kicked off. 71. And then 64 to 2026, that's only 62 years. And that's the Civil Rights Act in 1964. And then from 64 to 85, when I was born, that's only 20 years. And I'm going to tell you now, 20 years moves fucking fast. And guess what? A lot of people don't want to change in 20 years. So guess what? That hatred is still out in the world. And then from 85 to 2026, that's 41 years. 41 years. And the hatred is still there, but it is not as outward as it may seem. And right now, I say that because the only reason that it is, now such an outward, visible thing, because people, like I talked about before, they would be quiet about their racism. They wouldn't bring it to the person. They would bring it to the people around them. But now that we got ICE and all this crazy shit going on, it is in people's faces again. And I'm scared where things are going and how things are going. And I have already known some people that got scooped up. They're just moving the hatred around to different colors now. I mean, it's always been there, but wow, I don't know. I just had to get all this off my chest because people don't understand it. People don't understand how crazy the world is right now. And we're just regressing back to bullshit that used to be just outward and in people's faces. So everybody needs to just be careful out there. Everybody. It's wild right now. It doesn't seem to be any love in the air. And guess what? We need to get some of these people, these older people, out of power because they have that old school mentality. It is what it is. These people grew up in the thick of things, and now they're trying to run a country that wants to, or be a part of a country that wants to change, that wants happiness. Damn, why is everybody so angry? And if you don't believe me, just check out the fucking news. All right, I said what I said. Let's move on to, something a little different. And if you're like, oh, this didn't happen, Google some shit. Check it out for yourself. Do some fact checking, because I definitely do. Another thing people don't have is money. A lot of people are struggling right now. And look, if you're going out places and you're just being cheap, stay at home and learn to cook yourself, or shut the fuck up and enjoy the experience of being out at whatever restaurant you go to. Last week, I was really bad about going different places to get food. And a couple times I did encounter, not, personally, but I encountered people who did a lot of fucking complaining about being out. Oh, I want this. I want that. Like, dude, come on. Nothing is cheap anymore. Nothing is cheap. This is not pre-COVID. COVID destroyed all of that. The prices went up. And guess what? If you want something, you're gonna pay for it, bucko. Just don't go out places terrorizing people. And if it's a place that tips, tip the people and go on about your day. This is a tipping culture. Yes, they ask for tips at every turn, but the places that have always been, based off of tips. When you go and do self-checkout and the machine asks you for a tip, fuck no, you're not getting it. But if you're going to a restaurant and you got a server, yeah, you don't have to tip. But again, there's no way for these people to make any more money other than the tips. Even if every restaurant in the world, in the United States said, if the workers at these restaurants said, I'm not coming to work today until you give me a fair wage, guess what? That ain't going to happen. That would never happen because people need money right now more than anything. So they're going to continue to go to work. You know how they do blackout days? Like, don't go to Walmart or Target or something like that. No. And I've worked in plenty of restaurants, and I know that, you're just going to call out? Guess what? They're going to get people in there that want to work and that are willing to work and be happy with whatever tips they get. Yes, I get that. Be happy with what you get. But as most serving places, your hourly wage is like $2-3. That gets taxed. And then you're going to have to tip out a busser. You're going to have to tip out a bartender. So all that money, no matter how much they give you, is never all really yours. So if you're going to be cheap, stay at home, get on YouTube, and learn to cook yourself. I'm going to leave it at that. Here's something that I've been thinking about quite a bit. Like I talked about earlier, the world is extra spicy. I'm not a gun guy, but I've also thought about that. But I think I want to get some pepper spray. It's legal. And, people are just getting way too out of control and way too comfortable talking crazy shit to people. Like in the 80s, dude, you talk some shit to somebody, they were ready to knuckle up. I'm trying to think in the 90s. Yeah, 80s, 90s, you were knuckling up. 2000s, I don't know. It kind of it kind of changed up a little bit. But people were still knuckling up. A lot of people just didn't get to say what they, you know why? The internet. The internet made everybody a superhero. I'll tell you what, personally, I enjoy a good fight. I feel as a man, you should have to get into at least 4 fights a year. You got to keep that instinct up. You got to keep, hey, you don't know. You don't know who you are until you've gotten into a couple of fights. And I tell you what, the last fight I really got into was, honestly, to be honest, middle school. I'm trying to think in high school. That's when I was getting bigger and I was hanging out with motherfuckers that were bigger than me. So if, you mess with the bull, you got the horns. And we were some big boys. So people didn't really fuck with us too much. But in middle school, yeah, people would test their boundaries. And I've always talked about this. Mutual combat should be brought back. I don't know why it's not. If you got a problem and I got a problem, let's take this shit outside, kick each other's ass. Someone gets beat, someone doesn't, or it comes to a draw. But after that, we go on about our day. That's how it should be. No fucking sucker punches or any, pussy moves like that. No. Knuckle up and let's do it. It needs to happen at least 4 times a year, quarterly. That's what I'm thinking. You need to stay. That'll let you know where your fitness level is. Because most people couldn't last, 60 seconds in a good fight before they're huffing and puffing. But guess what? Since that can't happen, Chuck wants some pepper spray. Because I want you to back the fuck up. Get out of here. That's where we're at. Pepper spray. But then you got these pussy motherfuckers who have guns. I'll shoot you. No. I'm glad that I never grew up saying, oh, I want to get a gun. Never did that really cross my mind. I was always the fighter. I was like, let's go. I'll punch you square in the fucking throat. Let's go. Never once was I like, man, I want to put 6 holes in this son of a bitch. No, because I knew that's the pussy move. And I ain't no pussy. So, we'll see. I don't know. I'm going to have to do something because the world's getting wild. And I am good about leaving people alone, but people are just getting out of control now. So you got to be safe. You got to protect yourself. That's all I'm saying. I'm telling you, the weather is crazy right now. 2 weeks ago. No. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I was walking outside and almost passed out because I had my hoodie on because it was so damn hot. Last week, let me tell you, I didn't have enough clothes to put on. I almost pulled out the long johns because I've been wearing jeans quite a bit, and cold jeans, when they hit your leg or the back of your ass, it'll make you go, woo. And I'm telling you, I said, woo, quite a bit last week. Now, I want some damn snow. I don't want a little flurry. I want some snow. Give it to me, baby. I need some snow. But now we're getting into the thick of winter, which is crazy. And I feel, again, this shit, My buddy always talked about it. This shit shifted because all the leap years, we're like a month off. This is when it's supposed to have been getting cold during Christmas. I don't even know if we're going to really get any snow this year. I don't know. I really hope we do. But again, when the different dimensions are merging together, a lot of shit gets lost in translation. And some people call it the Mandela effect. But we'll save all that craziness for another episode. We'll get back into some of the effects that have taken place. Saturday. Was it Saturday? No. Friday. I went to the liquor store. I got some beer. I sat. I relaxed. I had 3 beers, and I was out like a light by like 9:30. It was nice. It was relaxing. I found this chocolate beer that has hints of vanilla and caramel, and I'm telling you, it's my favorite beer right now. But I know I need to slow down. But I don't drink like that. This is, special occasion. It's the beginning of the year. I got through 2025 without losing my head completely. It's a celebration. I hadn't had a chance to really sit down since the holidays thinking about it. I've been back and forth and just working, 6 days a week. And then Saturday, I got home, I made some food, and I'm telling you, when I went to sleep, I couldn't. So Sunday morning, I get to sleep at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't wake up until about 1:30 Sunday afternoon. And no lie, I felt so refreshed. So refreshed. I went to the store Saturday night. I bought some wings and what was that? I didn't get celery this time. I got a Caesar salad dressing kit. Oh, man. It was amazing. Wings, Caesar salad, and then I baked like 3 cookies. Man, my body was just so happy it couldn't go to sleep. And then when I did, I woke up Sunday morning, thanked the good Lord, and I was refreshed. Immediately jumped on doing this episode. Because, you got to have time to edit and kind of listen back to what you were saying. I don't know. That's why I haven't really done video, because I know it's going to be probably 10 times more work to stay consistent with certain things. Like, if I did the podcast and I didn't pause anything in between, right? There was no editing. You're going to hear me yawning. You might get a couple of sneezes here and there. You might get a few long pauses. A little bit of the extra BS. And I like when I do audio only, it cuts out the BS. I can tailor things how I like them. But again, it's 2026 and they are making things easier. And I don't want to depend on AI for everything. Like, hey, edit this for me. No. I'm not trying to be that guy that's doing everything AI. And I don't. I use it as a tool here and there, but I don't just shape everything around it because it's getting out of control. I just updated my damn phone, and they're like, hey, this is integrated with AI now, so you got to double check your emails. They're scanning all of them, and I'm like, come on, man. Come on. We don't need all this craziness with the AI. Please. No more. All right, I think I'm going to get out of here for this week. I talked about a lot. You've learned a lot. You can look up a lot and do some extra understanding for yourself because the world is wild. Be safe and have fun because it seems that a lot of people are not doing that. And in a few weeks, I will be having fun because I will have come up on 5 years of podcasting on February 4th, 2026. And no, I do not know what I'm going to do. But whatever it is, Chuck's going to have a good time. So let's hit some music. Don't forget Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, where you can check out full episodes. Casually Uncomfortable. Twitter at Casually Unchuck. Let your friends know, please. I appreciate it. And they'll appreciate the laughs and the fun that they will get with Chuck Jerome. All right. I'll see you later. Have a good week. We'll check out the news Wednesday. Peace. Don't be a piece of shit. Thank you.